Alright, time to resurrect this channel. And by resurrect, I mean start making videos again, because I have like 45 viewers, so this channel was never really like alive. 45 subscribers. When you have a child that intensely and forever changes your life, especially intensely for the first couple of months, but things aren't so crazy anymore, so I can have more time to do stuff like this. I can start doing videos about video games again, and particularly Halo, so that's what I want to do. So, the weekend of February 22nd, we got our first real Halo Infinite news stuff things since E3 2019 back in June. The news stuff things was, of course, the Halo Megaconstrux and the various toy action figures, memorabilia, etc. That we got to see from the New York Times Fair. And this came to us courtesy by Twitter handle users and Halo community members Mr. Legendary 117 and Miss Legendary 117. By the way, if you guys happen to see this, your wedding photos were so cool. You guys are Halo's first couple in my book. Anyway, as they shared those photos and as the news began to drop, it was so tangible in the community just how excited people were about Halo across the internet. If you were on Twitter, people were retweeting and commenting like wildfire, and everyone who was on Halo subreddit had sore hands because they were slamming that upvote button, and that in and of itself was just incredible. I mean, speaking for myself, the Thursday to Sunday on that week was just a constant undertone of feeling hyped and being genuinely excited. We hadn't been this excited about something Halo related since 2019's E3. Now, I've been marinating on all of this since then, the sheer excitement and just what does that mean right now as we're approaching Halo Infinite. Because you know, in a lot of ways, that weekend was the beginning of the hype train moving out of the station as we walk towards the launch of the game, and so it was just really thought-provoking to me. But after considering all that news and just that excitement for a couple days, I found two observations just really sticking out to me in my own mind, and I was having this internal conversation with myself, so I thought, what the hey, I'm going to make a video about it, because I bet you other people are also observing and thinking similarly, and how about we just all have a conversation about it together? So that's the first reason why I wanted to create this video, but I also have a second reason. The second reason is simply, I care a lot about joy. I care about my joy, I care about your joy, and I care about the joy of the Halo community as a whole, but more on that shortly. The first observation I was having was the simple fact that Halo is still beloved by many and eagerly anticipated, despite the internet telling us since 2015's Halo 5 and the disappointment that came along with that game that Halo's dead and 343 sucks and blah blah blah. And this really isn't too much of a surprise of an observation because Halo is a household name, so there's automatically a draw because of that, but also there has been this theme of eager excitement since E3 2019 when we saw the Discover Hope trailer. And this is just refreshing, right? Everybody loves it when what you are into and most enjoy is also really enjoyed by others, so it's just a real feel-good time. Prior to June 2019's E3, we really didn't have that, and then to have an extra heavy dose of it when this news dropped is just great. Again, not a surprise per se, but it bears worth mentioning, especially because it leads to my second and more important observation. The second observation is what happens when you get very intensely excited and hyped about a certain something, and then that excitement is maintained over time. So what happens when you get this excited? Well, I will tell you, but before I do, I want to be perfectly clear that I, as I said earlier, have been having this conversation internally with myself, so I'm talking to me before I'm talking to anybody else who might watch this video. In fact, I've been having this conversation with myself more or less since the E3 2018 trailer for the Slipspace engine announcement. So please know I'm not trying to sound preachy or goody two-shoes here to you or the Halo community at large. I'm in the same boat and it's just been heavy on my heart, and I wanted to share and talk about these things and get them out. I want to say what I want to say because I genuinely love Halo, and I genuinely love the community, and I love being a part of it, and I care for the well-being and the enjoyment of all of us who hold the controller and play the games together. As I said earlier, I care about our collective joy. Why do I care about our collective joy? Well, because in my 29 years of life, I've battled a lot of anxiety that has really tried to take my daily joy. And so, what I have found when I go to something like a video game to take my mind off of that, I don't want that game, which should be a place of enjoyment, to dictate if it is a place of enjoyment for me, right? I go to the game because I want to have a good time. I want to let go of the cares or the anxieties of the world. I don't want the game to add to my anxiety or be something that takes away from joy, because it doesn't need to be that. What happens when you get this excited is you let expectations run wild. At least I have and do, and you do too. We're human beings. It's what we do when you consider the prospect of something that we are absolutely, or you are absolutely crazy about. What happens then, if you're like me, is that you'll at times let your expectations soar extremely high, and you leave them there for a while because you're feeding off all of this energy of the excitement and the what-ifs that fit your own desires. In the case of a video game, especially one like Halo, I think oftentimes we let our expectations utterly engorge to proportions that cross a line from potential or probable to highly unlikely or impossible. We let our hype carry us to a place of an expectation of a standard that simply just can't be met. Now, is this inherently wrong? Well, in and of itself, no, probably not. I mean, we all have our own thoughts and desires for Halo Infinite, and as I said earlier, I think this is part of being a human and part of being a fan. But oftentimes, when we get this excited, it isn't helpful to us as a fan because it sets us up for a lot of disappointment. And what I mean by that is, if the game isn't what you were hoping or wanted or had high expectations for it to be, especially after you spend a long time being very excited, you're gonna suffer from some kind of disappointment that I believe is unneeded and avoidable, or at the very least, much more manageable. Now, don't hear me. I'm not saying you can't be excited. I'm saying it's possible to not be so disappointed if it doesn't meet your expectations. Now, how do we do this? By simply having an open hand towards the game. By having a state of thought about the game that is willing to experience it for what it is, and then make your decision on how you feel or think about it versus going in with a high expectation for certain things, and then letting that determine your level of enjoyment of the experience. Now, be careful not to misinterpret me here again. I'm not saying that we as consumers shouldn't be excited, and I'm certainly not saying that we as fans should not hold 343 to a standard of producing the highest quality excellence in their art as they possibly can. We should want them to reach and exceed their fullest potential as a collective studio. But that is different and should come from a place that wants to see a group of people exceed and be their very absolute best, maxed out in all that they're able to offer, and not from a place of demanded expectations of what their game should be to us. Am I telling you must like the game or excuse anything that is poorly executed? Absolutely not. That's for you to decide once you play it. I simply am, as I work to manage my own expectations and my own excitement, wanting you to consider how you can go about having the most enjoyable experience with the game itself, at least initially, and letting the game itself tell you what it is and letting it speak for itself, opposed to us trying to force it to be something that we inherently want it to be, that we demand or expect it to be. I mean, heck, let me use myself as an example for how excited I am for this game, all right? Let's go back to January 31st, okay? That's a Friday night, all right? I'm getting ready to go to bed shortly before midnight, okay? I've been up most of the day getting our home packed because on the 1st of February, we're actually moving a couple states away. But on my mind, as I'm laying down on the floor because our bed's been packed and we're getting ready to go to sleep, is I'm so excited that it's the last day of January and that tomorrow was going to be February the 1st, because it meant that we were 1 month closer to Halo Infinite. I'm insane, right? I'm a 29-year-old man who is getting ready to move his family, wife and child, to a new state. I gotta think about jobs and transitions and moving and packing and make sure we have everything, and I can't sleep because I'm this excited for a video game. And that's awesome because I love Halo. It's fantastic. It is the richest experience, both from a multiplayer standpoint and a campaign standpoint and a community standpoint, I have ever had. And that's what's keeping me up, because I'm that excited for it. Now, why was I this excited? Well, because in part, I'd been dreaming about what the game could contain. I've been dreaming that since E3 2018. What will they do? What will Slipspace offer? What will 3 decide to do with this? What's going to happen with that piece of narrative? Just going back and forth and etc, etc. And this is all well and good. But if I begin to close my fist around what I would like the game to be, then I'm setting myself up for trouble. Of course, maybe not though, right? Maybe Halo Infinite's going to be the best game ever made. Not just the best Halo game made, maybe it's going to be the best game ever made. It's just going to collectively blow all of our minds. Or it could just be another game. It could be a Halo game that we play, hopefully enjoy, but maybe not. Maybe it won't be all that we hoped or desired, and it won't meet our expectations, and we'll all be disappointed. That could happen. Regardless, my plea to you from one fan to another is that you give some consideration to your own expectations, and maybe temper them a little if you feel that they need it. Look, we're gonna be hyped. We are right now after just seeing some Mega Blocks and some toys. Imagine what it's going to be like once we finally get to see some gameplay, maybe participate in a beta. We're going to lose our collective minds, and that's going to be a lot of fun. But strive to set yourself up for the best possible enjoyment from now and all the way until the game releases, through all the news, reveals, trailers, betas, and whatever else might come our way. If you have seen any of my other videos on the channel, you may be familiar with how I state that in each video, my desire is to help bring you a little bit of joy with every piece of content that I create. Remember that a group of professionals at 343 are right now laboring to do exactly that for all of us with Halo Infinite. And at the end of the day, it's a video game, right? It's a piece of art that is meant to be enjoyed and received with pleasure. Let it be that for you as best it can, at least initially. But that's what's been on my heart and my mind since we saw that Mega Blocks and Toys news. I love this franchise and I love this community, and I'm thrilled to be riding this hype train with you all the way through launch. If you've enjoyed this video, then I encourage you to hang out and stick around for a little bit. Like it and share it if you think it might help somebody else, and let me know in the comments below what your expectations are, and if you think I'm a crotchety old man for making this video, or do you agree with some of it? Do you think it's wise to try to temper some expectations as we get closer to the launch of it? Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. The first observation that I was heaven to Betsy.